was meant to go on a date this morning. It didn't go ahead. Why? I don't know. I thought the conversation was good. Last night he said where am I suggesting? Because he said coffee and walk, and then I said a couple places. He didn't reply, and then he posted on his Instagram story. And then I thought maybe he'll respond in the morning because he's out, whatever, I don't care. No reply, nothing. He didn't say, sorry I slept in, oh sorry, can't happen. He just never messaged.
Ah, gotcha. You see, it's really simple why this guy ghosted you. He suggested a coffee and walk date. Something low cost, low stress, and if either party is disinterested, it's in the daytime so you can just bail whenever you want. Which is something I assume happens to you a lot considering you're reaching the age of 35. However, in response to this, you probably counter-offered with a list of bistro restaurants where you'd expect him to pay for a full night's worth of artisanal dinner and drinks. He decided that you were too high maintenance and simply not worth meeting because though the conversation may have been mildly stimulating, and you are semi-good looking, he had virtually no interest in paying a king's ransom to watch you shove food down your gullet.
And it was meant to happen at 11 o'clock. But I don't know why this happens. It's happened a couple times to me recently, and it's just so rude and inconsiderate, especially when I thought we're having a good conversation, communicating well, mutually interested it seemed, but obviously not.
That's a mystery.
Woman, the reason why more and more men are ghosting you is simple. You are simply not worth a man's effort. Why would a man go through the trouble of getting out of bed and going through the hassle of putting on pants and walking out the door to meet with a woman who has the personality of old plywood? Let me put it to you this way. Men would rather go to the beach alone and spend all day digging a massive hole in the sand than spend 1 hour with you in an air-conditioned coffee shop. Honestly, I'm being fairly generous with that comparison because digging holes at the beach is kinda awesome and you're kinda not. In other words,
you're boring! You're fucking dull! You have nothing to say! You are a one-hived mind twat waffle!
Where am I finding these people? On Hinge. And they're probably on Tinder. Not that it should matter, but if you're on that and you're organising a date, why organise a date and not go through with it and just ghost someone? I guess it's ghosting. But yeah, it's so difficult.
That's not my problem. It's yours.
oh lady, just be honest. When you were younger and you actually held some value in the dating market, you were constantly ghosting men left and right. Just admit it. You were sleeping with Chad one moment, then ghosting him for Tyrone's bungalow the next. These decisions would be made simply based on superficial things like what kind of car the next guy drove, or whether or not Raphael would charm you out of your pants. You have been ghosting men for a decade and a half. Now all of the sudden, now it's happening to you, it's rude and uncalled for? Right. You know that stinging feeling you got at the bottom of your gut? Get used to that feeling because it's going to be happening to you for the rest of your life. You had your fun, lady. Now it's our turn.
Indeed. Now, an average girl that doesn't have a social media presence, that probably makes sense. But when I was in OnlyFans, I was making at least $100,000 a month.
Congratulations!
It never ceases to amaze me how these women who sell their bodies think it's a flex when they talk about how much money they make. Sure, 100 G's may sound impressive, but at the same time, look at what it cost you. It cost you a potential future with a good man, a family, and a life of possible contentment. Instead, you decided to chase the ducats, and now you fall back on how much money you used to make as if that's a good thing. Well, I'm here to tell you that nobody gives a damn about how much money you made because that money stinks worse than your festering slop hole of burning discomfort.
Ew, what a mess. Ew, ew, ew.
Why did you stop?
Well, I was working with Fresh and Fit, and I was getting my head filled with all this. Oh, you're
it's not your head filled, Xena. You actually had realizations, and it was beautiful. You
yes,
cried
but
on the panel saying
stop.
that.
But let me finish my point, because at the end of the day, I already did it. So it doesn't matter to quit it when I was already doing it. And I'm sorry, I was taking care of myself. I was providing for myself, and all my bills are paid.
This woman is still not prepared to take responsibility for her actions. Here she sits trying to say that it was Fresh and Fit who put the concept of shame into her head, and when someone tried to tell her otherwise, she cut her off in order to brag about how she was paying her own bills. You know who else pays their own bills? A majority of functioning adults. In fact, paying your bills isn't some kind of an amazing feat. That's literally part of the bare minimum you need in order to be an adult in modern society. But you would rather brag about your college level adulting skills than admit that you made a terrible mistake with your life. You know what? After saying that, I'm gonna have to walk that back. I've actually known college students more responsible than you, and those guys used to wash their faces with 5 o'clock vodka.
I've struggled more having quit. Yes, is my mental better now that I'm not on there?
Exactly.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
But guess what? People still harass me to this day and call me an OnlyFans and send videos or pictures of my OnlyFans.
Well, that's
too.
why I always
so
say.
what was the point?
What's I always say, and look, I'm not encouraging you to get back on that pole.
Yeah.
But that's what I always say. Once you do it,
Like,
don't
you might
stop.
as well do it, save up. Now, I should have listened to
Like, you've
Myron's
already done it.
advice.
People are gonna call you a or whatever.
Wow, that's fantastic work, man. You have the wisdom of a 6,000 or 7,000-year-old man. That's fantastic. We don't have to fill up the whole blackboard after all.
You know what's amazing? The fact that you had no idea that the second you put something on the internet, it's there forever. And what's even more amazing is that you had no idea that people would remember that particular fact. And even more amazing still is how you're only realizing now that 99% of users on the internet are unrelenting bastards who will relentlessly troll you until the day your corpse is consumed by your army of self-serving cats. You know, it's truly a shame that you didn't spend your money all that wisely, but I suppose you can take solace in the fact that boxed wine will always be cheap. So you got that going for you, which is pretty terrible for you, but hilarious for us.
Examples of men not being able to handle being subjected to content that caters to women, even though women every single day have to endure content only made for men.
Like, people talking, you say, huh? What are you talking about?
The first category is just when they have to start seeing something made for women too much. And the obvious example is the Barbie movie. They were just so annoyed that Barbie was everywhere. They could not escape it, and that like people were talking about it more than Oppenheimer.
And you get a reaction from people who say, huh? What are you talking about?
Alright, somebody needs to tell this specimen that women-centric content has existed for decades. And for the longest time, men did not care. If we did, romantic comedies would have been thrown into the abyss alongside soap operas and the Tina Fey era of Saturday Night Live. Men were not bothered by the mere existence of the Barbie movie. What we cared about was having that movie shoved relentlessly in our faces and being told that we were terrible people if we didn't support the dumbass Barbie movie in every way, shape, and form. And I never gave a crap about Oppenheimer either. Come to think of it, I think it's safe to say that if men had a choice in what movie they wanted to watch, the answer would have been obvious. We'd all be watching Predator.
You son of a bitch.
This applies to any women-centric content that just becomes so popular that men have to start to hear about it more than they want to. Like this guy that made his wife put money in a jar every time she mentioned Taylor Swift. This happens anytime women just start to like something, start to talk about something enough that it seeps into men's consciousness. Like when we were all joking about girl math a few months ago, they were so mad that it was so popular, it was reaching them.
What?
I've always been a believer that if you took Madonna and cut off her balls, then you'd have Taylor Swift. Her music is some of the most generic, uninteresting, bland, and pointless bubblegum fluff that's ever been unleashed onto an unwitting public. And her fan base is so rabid, it makes the Twilight fans of yore seem reasonable by comparison. So if a husband was forced to go through the trouble of making a Taylor Swift swear jar, it was either because it was a joke or his wife would legitimately not shut up about Taylor Swift. And in today's day and age, either one is plausible, and that's kind of depressing to think about. But I think this actually shadows a bigger question. What in the name of the shimmering nipples of the intergalactic space god Globichard is girl math?
Another category is when something men see as being made for them starts to be a little less made for them, like when they made this female-centric Marvel movie and they lost their minds. They just think every piece of of content should be geared towards them. Pro tips for launching successful movie geared towards guys. This is how they reacted when there was a female lead of a Marvel movie, which women also watch. This girl just went to see the movie and this person tweeted at her calling her fat and ugly. The same thing happened when they tried to put women in the Ghostbusters movie. Again, it doesn't matter if people think these movies are good or not. They were mad that they were made.
You're not just wrong, you're stupid. Now wait just a minute. And you're ugly, just like your mum.
No, men don't think that every single piece of content should be geared towards us. That's just stupid, much like your face. However, considering that men are the core demographic for most action and comedy movies, it might not be a bad idea to tailor those movies to draw their attention. Men weren't losing their minds over the Marvels. We were laughing because Disney set their cash cow on fire in the name of ideological politics. We were bothered by Ghostbusters 2016 for relatively similar reasons. The original Ghostbusters is a masterclass of comedic storytelling, combining tight writing, fantastic visual effects, and flawless comedic timing to make arguably one of the greatest movies of all time. And it was being remade with feminist propaganda in mind, with no respect to the original story being given. And the movie fans have made this abundantly clear for the last 7 years, and you would know this if your brain wasn't 90% tapioca porridge.
Issue is not that sports bars play sports. It's that male content is so omnipresent, the infrastructure is so readily available that you're always seeing content made for you that men cannot handle when content made for women comes across their TV, comes across their For You page. They act like babies.
You! I will think of you as I throw up into the toilet.
Men don't give a crap about female content. We never did. It's the fact that cretins like you demand that we have no spaces to ourselves. You and your brood of unwashed cultists have invaded movies, sports, video games, music, social media, and even the gym. Men have no place to call our own because you demand that we don't. So we got fed up and we're starting to fight back. So if anybody's acting like a baby, it's you. Because the second we start standing up for ourselves, you start crying and whining and blaming the patriarchy because you're not getting your way over something. You're really just embarrassing yourself. Meanwhile, we're still finding new, creative, and somewhat funny ways to get our voices out and continue to poke fun at you and your blatant idiocy. And for that, I tip my intergalactic space cap off to you, crazy woman. Thanks to you and your smug content, you make my job so much easier. And that's gonna do it for today's video, gentlemen and gents. As always, if you find that my particular brand of humor is bringing you to the brink of laughter, then why don't you scroll on down and click that like and subscribe button and ring the notification bell so we can give the good old-fashioned middle finger to the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much for checking out the new video, and until next time, peace out, homies.